want to be very clear that it is my belief that thousands of civilians have in fact been slaughtered in Gaza, and I believe the numbers that are being reported are probably pretty close to accurate.
That it might just be a collection of random names. Now, it turns out that a few weeks ago, I reached out to a source I'd met doing previous reporting. His name's Maram Al-Dada, and he was born and raised in Gaza, but now lives in Orlando. Still, he's been in regular contact with his family over there. I reached out to ask how his family was doing, and he said that 30 people on his mother's side and 7 on his father's had been killed so far. A week later, I had him on my Intercept podcast, Deconstructed, to talk about what life was like for his family in Gaza amid the bombing. But because Maram had told me about the killings before the Ministry of Health's list came out, that meant we could compare the two lists, and if his relatives were on it, it would mean that the list is not just filled with random names, but that each name does represent the tragic snuffing out of a life.
Think about this for a second. Why would the presence of 30 legit names on a list of thousands of deaths, why would the presence of those names prove that the entire list represents actual people who died? By what logic is he coming to this conclusion? Because 30 items on a list are valid, that confirms that the entire list is valid? Finding 30 names randomly is a good spot check to give some level of confidence to the list. If a lot of those names weren't found there, that would lead a little bit of question. But I mean, not all the deaths are counted, right? There's people who are buried under rubble and things like that. So even if a lot of the names were not on the list, that doesn't necessarily indicate the list is fake either, right? Confirming 30 items on a list of thousands as being valid does not in any way confirm that the entire list is valid. Not at all. Not even in the slightest.
So the list was first released in Arabic and includes the ID numbers given out by Israel to Palestinians, as well as their age and gender. My colleague, Miriam Salah, who speaks Arabic, helped me go through it, and the ministry later released an English language version as well. We found 43 of his 46 relatives on the ministry's list. The youngest, Tahani, was just a baby, not yet a year old, and the oldest was a 71-year-old grandmother.
I'm willing to bet that the average independent journalist online, YouTubers, hearing this would be like, aha, they just proved that this list is actually genuine. Most of them would not recognize a massive flaw in this conclusion that he came to. I'll explain. Stay with me.
What has struck people the most about the denial of the slaughter and the hand-waving it away as just the price of war is how different it was when the White House was talking about civilian casualties in Ukraine. And so now that we know that the Ministry of Health list that is being put out in Gaza does have the names of real people who have actually died, it kind of, I think, puts the White House in a difficult position, because the attempt to say that, well, this is just coming from Hamas, we can't really believe this, is belied by that fact that there are real people.
I did the math, and he basically confirmed that 0.3% of the names on the list are actually valid. Why would confirming only 0.3% of the names on the list validate the entire list?
Save the children. The number of children killed in Gaza over the last 3 weeks has surpassed the number of children killed in wars around the world over the past 3 years combined. And so now that we know that the Ministry of Health list that is being put out in Gaza does have the names of real people who have actually died, it kind of, I think, puts the White House in a difficult position, because the attempt to say that, well, this is just coming from Hamas, we can't really believe this, is belied by that fact that there are real people on that list, real people who led real lives that were ended in the last couple of weeks, combined with the images that we're seeing. And you see John Kirby talk about how hard it is to look at the images of civilians killed in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. That's equally true in Gaza. Mm-hmm.
I want to be very clear that it is my belief that thousands of civilians have in fact been slaughtered in Gaza, and I believe the numbers that are being reported are probably pretty close to accurate.
I think extremely flawed reasoning is being used in this video to justify or to prove that fact.
Simply because someone agrees with my conclusion does not mean I shut my brain off and simply accept whatever they're saying without thought. That's not the way that an independent thinker behaves. You might be supporting something that I believe, like I believe the numbers are probably accurate, but I'm still going to listen to what you're saying. And if what you're saying doesn't make any sense, like in this case, I'm going to call it out and disagree with it. I'm not just going to say, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Biden, he's trying to deny the truth. Yeah, Biden, I think, is trying to pretend like he's not aware that a lot of civilians are being killed. I agree with that. But again, that's a separate topic from whether or not the logic being used on breaking points to prove this is sound or not. Let me explain why the reasoning is really, really bad here. First of all, let's talk about what the presence of actual names of real people who died being on that list, what it actually confirms. So the fact that there are confirmed actual real names of people on that list confirms that there are actual real names of real casualties on the list. That's all. The only thing that the existence of real people on that list, the only thing it confirms is there are some names on that list that are real, and it only confirms the specific names that he's referencing, right? So if you know of 30 people that actually died, and you check the list and those 30 people are there, again, you've only confirmed that those 30 names on the list are valid, right? Assuming that some of these people on the list are the actual same people and not just people with the same name. So even if you find 30 people who actually died and their names on the list, even that doesn't even confirm that 30 people on that list are valid. Because how do you know that, let's say there's somebody called John Smith that you know actually died? The fact that there's a John Smith on the list doesn't prove that that's the same John Smith. So we can't even confirm that 100% of the names that he confirmed are actually confirmed, right? We would need to look at things like social security numbers or something else that's uniquely identifying. So the best thing they have going is that they are using age and gender, especially age. The odds that you have the exact name, not so much the gender, but an age, and it matches, gives a higher level of confidence. Let's say the person's name is John Smith, 50 years old. The odd that there's another John Smith that's 50 years old that's on the list as well, but it's a different guy, not so high, but it could exist. You could have two people with the same name and the same age in a population of millions, right? So ultimately, you'd want something uniquely identifying that, this number, this identification number, no one else has it, so we match it up so we know 100%. So again, I would expect that if the names, gender, and ages match, then probably most of them are legit. However, we can't even say that 100% of them are legit because there might be one that coincidences do happen. Same name, same age, same gender, but it's a different person, right? So even the list that he confirmed is not really fully confirmed based on the details that we have provided. But the greatest value we can say here would be it's a high probability that most of the names on the list of actual people that are on the list that Hamas gave out, most of those names are probably legit, right? Because the odds that a whole bunch of them are all just coincidentally matching with someone else, very, very low. But a few of them could be, right? So he's not even confirming the full list of people that we actually know died, right? Here is the reality, and let's use some basic logic in terms of what's a sensible way to figure this stuff out. If you were Hamas and you wanted to create a fake list of people to pretend like they died, the idea that you would just create a list of just made up names, purely made up names, is cartoonishly silly. Again, think for a second, put yourself in that position. If you wanted to create, so let's say 1,000 people died, right? And you wanted to make people think that 3,000 people died to get more sympathy or something like that. What kind of person would just come up with a list of 3,000 made up names? Who would do something so dumb? Some of you are not getting it yet, right? But here's the thing. The idea is not just to pretend like civilians are dying. They are, and it's not in a dispute, right? The idea is to pad the list, right? You want to make the numbers seem greater than they are. So you would start with the actual list, right? If 1,000 people died, you want to make people think 3,000 people died. Wouldn't you start with the 1,000? Meaning, you put together a list of 1,000 people that actually died, and then, and only then, because you have to, you start adding fake names of people that actually didn't die, right? So logically, any fake list of casualties is going to have a ton of names of actual people who died, right? That would be the basis, right? Because you want this list to be believable, right? So why would you waste credibility by not including the names of actual people who died? So therefore, the fact that this guy, family members that died are on that list
Of course they would be. Why on earth would you not include actual people who died on a list that you want to pad? Pad meaning add to, not create, but add to, right? Civilians are dying. No one's debating that, right? So the illusion would be making it seem bigger than it is, right? It's like if I wanted to make people think that I'm stronger than I am, I would pad my outfit, put fake muscles in my thing. I wouldn't, be completely fake. I wouldn't just be like a android, like there's nothing in there. It's all just plastic. No, right? I'm going to include in my illusion me as I am now and just add to, right? So, look, first of all, the instant I heard him say this, I was like, that's ridiculous. What was the words that he said? He said something like, so now we know that it's not just a fake list and that these names, every name on this list, something to that effect, is an actual person. Like, where did he get that from? It was kind of glaringly, obviously, a false statement with no basis. Like, what is the basis of saying the full list is genuine? Just based on the fact that 30 names on the list are genuine. I mean, that's the equivalent of, I don't know, maybe I'm being accused of using counterfeit money, and then you go find someone that did business with me, and I handed them $30 in cash, and you go and you check those $30 and you see that the $30 actually, it's real money, right? And you say that this is proof that, the money I'm using is not counterfeit, it's actually real. No. It's proof that that money, that specific $30 is real. It's not proof of anything else, right? If you can get a high number of, bills that I've given to people validated as genuine, that can help the argument that I'm actually not using counterfeit dollars. But that's never going to be able to prove that I don't use counterfeit dollars because, again, I don't think someone who's using counterfeit money would want to use 100% counterfeit money, right? Some of the money is probably going to be real, right? Anyway, tell me your thoughts. This is a Baby Channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. And again, to be clear, to review, I believe that 7,000 to 8,000 civilians have in fact been killed by the IDF in Gaza. I believe that the numbers that is coming out from the Hamas health ministry, whatever they are probably accurate. I believe that Joe Biden also agrees with that assessment, but it's politically uncomfortable reality. So he is gaslighting and pretending as if, we don't know if those numbers are real or not, just based on the words that he's using, the emptiness of the words he's using. I mean, he's not really making a lot of sense. And I don't think we can explain that this is like because of his age. I think he's intentionally being manipulative. That being said, my only issue is that the conclusion that was arrived at by Breaking Points, massively flawed, and an example of confirmation bias. He believes, like I do, that the numbers being reported out of Gaza are actually legitimate. So he found this little anecdotal situation where there's some actual names on the list, and as confirmation bias goes, he's like, this proves it. He doesn't really spend a lot of time thinking about what it actually proves, right? Thinking critically and challenging it. He looks at it with a very low bar because it confirms what he's trying to put out there. Many independent YouTubers are probably going to see his video and be like, this is good, I'm going to use this in my video. And then they'll repeat it as well and say, they checked and the 30 people and they were real people. Almost no one who believes, like I do, that the list is genuine is going to watch that video with a critical eye and be like, wait a minute. They're all going to just look at it and be like, proof, right? Now, if he had made a video discounting that the list actually might be fake, many people who believe in the list, all of a sudden their critical thinking would turn on, magically, and they'd be like, but wait a minute, how do you know that? And where'd you get that information from, right? But because it agrees with the narrative that they want to push out or that they believe in, they're going to shut down their skepticism. That's the contrast with the way I look at things. I believe that the numbers are genuine, but I really don't care that he's agreeing with me. What I care about is what the truth is. And I'm listening to what he's saying and seeing if it's truthful, it makes sense. And I'm finding that it's massively flawed, hence I made this video, right? And this is the way I encourage my viewers to
look at things. I want you to always be critical of things. Even when somebody's saying something that agrees with what you believe in, you should always be critical. Please, please avoid only being skeptical about things that challenge what you believe in. Have a consistent level of skepticism about information that is being brought to you, right? Because the same way many of you would miss this detail that I picked up on is the same way that you'll miss details by propagandists that will mislead you, right? If you couldn't pick up on this, you're not going to pick up on propagandists that are intentionally misleading you, as opposed to just bad reporting like this was.